Hi, I'm Miley Oye. I work at Google as a Developer Programs Tech Lead on our Webmaster Support team. This video is about how to find quick fixes that you or a member of your technical staff can easily implement to improve performance on your mobile site. But before we talk about how to speed things up, let's check out the statistics. It's a fact that performance can affect profits. In an experiment run by Strangeloop, they added 1 second of additional latency to pages served to smartphone users. With just a 1 second delay, they found over a 9% decrease in page views, not to mention over 8% increase in bounce rate, and furthermore, a 3.5% drop in conversions. Finally, to make matters worse, even after the experiment was over, shoppers were significantly less likely to return to the site. So what's the current state of users and the speed of mobile pages? Well, studies show there's a 1 second limit for a user not to be distracted, while today, 7 seconds is the average page load time on mobile. This means that we have 6 extra seconds to try another website, completely forget our task at hand, or perhaps brew in frustration. Let me explain a bit more about why the mobile web is slower than desktop. We can compare mobile versus desktop latency potential. Take a laptop user, let's say on google.com, about to perform a search. Once the user enters a query, the total round trip from the user's browser to connect to Google, Google's servers to process the query, and then for Google to return the results and have them displayed in the laptop's browser, can happen in less than half a second. In fact, that's the performance to which many of us have become accustomed. On smartphones, however, a full round trip in less than a half second is likely impossible. That's because when a user enters a query on their smartphone, the client needs to connect to the mobile phone network before it can reach the server. Mobile phone networks are configured in such a way that whether it's 3G or 4G, a smartphone still requires at minimum 0.5 seconds to connect to a server, like Google. Once connected to the server with a half second elapsed, Google still needs to process the query, return the results, and have the smartphone render the page. The key lesson is that your potential smartphone visitors will experience a minimum of 0.5 seconds just to connect to your server. Then, about 0.6 seconds later, when the time elapsed is over 1 second, it's already possible your visitor is distracted. So let's talk about how we can make things faster. For this video, I'll demonstrate ideas using Google Analytics with the e-commerce site, the Google Store, at www.googlestore.com. Let's begin in Google Analytics and create a mobile traffic segment. Start with Create New Segment. Just last month, my colleagues on the PageSpeed team launched a new feature in Google Analytics called Site Speed. Let's navigate to Site Speed Page Timings. With our segment set to mobile traffic, select the Distribution tab. Distribution provides a high-level view of a site's performance. We can see that the average page load time on mobile for my site, the Google Store, is over 6 seconds. We also notice that 46% of my site's pages take 3 to 7 seconds to load on mobile. The good news is that we have lots of room for improvement. Still within Site Speed Page Timings, click the Explorer tab. On this page, in the default sort order of page views, so we're looking at the most visited pages on our site, you can see the relative speed of each page. Turns out that my third most popular page, the YouTube category page, that sells things like YouTube water bottles and magnets, is excruciatingly slow. 350% slower than my average mobile page, which, as we saw earlier, wasn't that fast to begin with. We can use this feature to make a list of popular, slow pages we want to investigate. Now let's go to Site Speed Suggestions to learn what improvements to make. We see that for the YouTube page, there are 9 page speed suggestions. Clicking the suggestions launches PageSpeed Insights in a new window. It's like watching your test graded before your eyes. Once it completes, take a look at mobile performance. Our YouTube page, unsurprisingly, scores a 55 out of 100 with respect to performance best practices. We have the equivalent of an F. Since this video is about making quick fixes for mobile performance, we'll focus on fixing the simplest red exclamation point suggestions. Some of these suggestions may be familiar and others less so, but for each suggestion, you can expand for more details. I'd really like for you to understand how easy and perhaps ultimately profitable implementing these performance suggestions can be. I made a chart which is going to cover 2 slides that hopefully highlights the easy performance suggestions and gives context to the somewhat more difficult ones. Feel free to pause the video if you want a further review. The top of the chart covers what's easy to do and can be done within a few hours by a developer or someone with more technical skill. First is to enable compression. Enabling compression is zipping resources so there's less data to transfer between your web server and the client. It's a simple settings change on your server's configuration file. Minifying resources can be easily performed through publicly available tools. Using asynchronous scripts is largely a matter of copying and pasting new code snippets to replace older versions. To leverage browser caching, you can simply add appropriate HTTP headers to your resources. The last, fairly easy speed suggestion is to avoid landing page redirects. In the case of pages in a redirect chain, this means to correct the source URL to point directly to the target rather than any intermediate pages. We can see how correcting extraneous redirects is helpful by again looking at latency on a smartphone. Every redirect will require the mobile user to wait, at minimum, an extra 0.5 seconds for the page to load. Going back to another low difficulty recommendation, enabling compression is as easy as copying code into a server configuration file. There already exist open source master configuration files that you can reference, i.e. copy, for the right security and performance settings for your server. The speed suggestions on the second page of this chart increase in developer difficulty. Many of these won't be corrections you can make within a few hours. They'll require more thought and process enhancements. Still, I'd like to take a moment to chat about the recommendation to optimize images. Optimizing images includes a range of improvements from lossless compression to creating and cropping images specifically for your mobile site. Optimizing images isn't quite as simple as some of the other speed suggestions on the previous slide, but it can have a large impact. Images comprise 65% of mobile web data. Optimizing these resources can reduce download time and ultimately load pages faster. The main takeaway from all of this is that if you have a high traffic mobile page with red exclamation mark speed suggestions of low developer difficulty, it would be great for your visitors and for your business to correct them. But for further inspiration, let's check out webpagetest.org. With WebPageTest, we can enter a page like the YouTube category page and have it analyzed for speed. Select a mobile user agent like an iPhone or Android smartphone. When WebPageTest completes for the slow page, that's when we can see the hurt. I reviewed this page with my colleague, Ilya Grigorik, who focuses primarily on performance. His response? Yikes, that's not a pretty waterfall. The waterfall visually represents why the page load time was over 15 seconds. The blue bars are content downloads required to load the page. For the page to start rendering, it required nearly 7 seconds. With this performance, my site is essentially expecting a YouTube shopper to wait 7 seconds to receive any visual feedback, and over 15 seconds for the entire page to load. If you're still not inspired to make some of these quick improvements, please note that according to What Users Want from Mobile Sites Today, 61% of users said that if they didn't find what they were looking for right away on a mobile site, they'd quickly move on to another site. That's why a fun activity is to compare your page in PageSpeed Insights with your competitor's equivalent page. Having played sports throughout my life and being the youngest daughter of 3, I find it especially motivating to make improvements if I'm outperformed by the competition. Also at Web Page Test, you can download a film strip view of the rendering of your mobile page. Feel free to compare your render film strip with other sites' pages in your industry. I wanted to end with pointers to great resources. There's PageSpeed, with tools like PageSpeed Insights and articles. There are also great videos by Ilya and members of the PageSpeed team. And last, let's give a shout out to webpagetest.org. Thanks for watching.